right. Can everybody hear me? All right. Well, shoot. I'm nervous, guys. It's good to... Hello, it's good... Hey, it's great to see the revolution's alive and well in Alabama, guys. This is... I'm really excited to be here. And you don't know how lucky I feel to be standing right here in front of you. I've gone from Mobile to Huntsville to Tuscaloosa to Anniston. And I'm going to ask the same question I asked 100 people before you. Is anybody selling an AR-15? I can't find one. So if you have one, I'm looking. All right? So before I get started on my speech, I want to go ahead and apologize. I'm not a great speaker. They brought me here for my looks. So that's my function here. All right? But seriously, guys, before we get started, I'd like to just take a minute of silence to remember the children that were murdered by a crazy person up in Connecticut. If we just take a minute, please. Thank you. So, who am I? Well, I'm not from Ohio. I'm from Chile. I don't know if you gathered that. Lived there as a kid. We had a socialist come in, and my dad, he couldn't find a job anymore. You know, he had to join the Communist Party. He had to do this and the other. So the only people that got jobs, that had a chance, that had opportunities, and got benefits are the ones that were favoring the government, supporting the socialist government. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you guys. Okay? So I find it a duty of mine, not being born here, but having been accepted here. And every time I make a speech, I thank everybody. I've been able to make a life here, raise a family here, live in peace. And I want to thank you and all those that came before us, before me, for that opportunity. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody mess that up for the future kids in our country. So that's why I'm up here. So after the socialists got overthrown, we had a dictator. And I remember as a little kid, you know, tanks going through the streets, right? And hearing a shot here and there, and then yelling and knocking on doors and seeing people get kidnapped. You know, I was an activist, I guess, when I was, how old was I? I think I was 17 at the time, and then I got caught. It's almost a funny video. I was walking down the street, all of a sudden people gathered around me and they were marching and protesting. So I joined up. Until here comes the goons, and then they come chasing people, and they chase us up a staircase, right? And then I realized, hey, we can't get out of there. So I turned around and walked down, cool as a cucumber, nothing happened here. And people just came by me, and then the kid next to me, he got a big old stick in the eye, and his eye just popped right next to me. And those people were fighting for freedom to express themselves. The difference between, and I often wonder about this, how come we haven't had a dictatorship here, right? How come we haven't had some general take over the country? Because we're an armed citizenship here. We have our arms, and that's the reason, that's the only reason we have that. Okay? That's why we don't have concentration camps. And we can't lose that. I'm a veteran of the Air Force. Any Air Force folks around here? All right. A veteran of the Army. Any Army folks around here? Navy? I'm sorry, guys. No. No, we also got the Marines, and we have our Coast Guard. There you go. So I was in the Air Force for a bit, and then got out, missed it, went in the Army, and did that. But I didn't join to ensure your safety. I joined the military to ensure your liberty. I'm not responsible for your safety. You are. Okay? So you need to have all the tools that you think you need, and I don't know what you need. Maybe you feel safe with your hands. Okay? But it's up to you to defend yourselves and arm yourselves. And you cannot let anybody take that right away from you. Okay? So, unlike the president, I'm not standing on the graves of little children trying to take your right away. Okay, and that's what she's doing, standing on the grave of children. I'm standing here on the shoulders of the veterans of this country, the citizens of this country that came before me, trying to protect our rights. It's a big difference. So before I get into the meat of my speech, I'd like you to get your cell phone out, please, if you would. Everybody get your cell phone out. Okay? Give you a second. And I want you to go ahead and put this number in, dial it. It's 202, and I'll tell you why in a second. 224-2541. 202-224-2541. One more time, it's 202-224-2541. If you didn't catch it, just get it from somebody next to you, if you would. Why do we need this phone number? Well, because we have Obama that's willing to go around Congress, right, and threaten our guns, threaten our medical records. You heard of speakers before. Now, all of a sudden, it's a disease if you want to own a gun. You got to tell your doctor. Gee whiz, right? And all they're doing is making life difficult for law-abiding citizens like yourself. Funny how if we want to exercise our First Amendment right, we cannot exercise our Second Amendment. We can't be armed right now. And if you're armed right now, don't tell anybody, okay? You'll get arrested, right? But I should be able to have a sidearm in a public place, okay? So why can't we do that? So we'll be looking to change some of those gun laws here in the state as well, okay? So the Campaign for Liberty is going to urge the Congress, and we're working, we're a nationwide organization, so we're working to go ahead and encourage Congress to stop some of the executive orders that Obama laid out just not too long ago. And so the legislators in Washington and here, we're going to hold you accountable, right? And before you all leave, sign up with somebody, because the only way we're going to affect change is we can get in touch with you and let you know when something's going on. Okay, coming out here is great, but the legislators are not here. They left town. They're afraid of us, right? But we need to let them know we're here. So sign up with some organization, definitely Campaign for Liberty, right? But, you know, it's kind of easy to blame Obama. Obama this, Obama that, you know. He's for higher taxes, you know. He's spending out of control. He's trying to take away some of our liberties. So it's very easy. But we have an unseen enemy, an enemy that nobody's thinking about right now. Nobody's thinking about, nobody's seeing. And then that enemy that we got is the Republican leadership in Washington. It's not the enemy you know, it's the enemy that you don't know. And I'll explain why. Okay. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, he's scheming right now to cut a deal with Harry Reid to end the filibuster. The filibuster is the tool that may keep our gun rights. Okay? Through the filibuster, we're able to stop cap and tax. Remember that? Fourth, unionism. I don't know if you remember that. And I know not everybody here was politically active before, but also the Disclosed Act, where you had to tell the government who was giving you money, who you supported. Right? So the filibuster might be the only tool that we have to stop Reid and Feinstein and Obama from taking our guns. So it's really important. So please call Mitch McConnell at 202-224-2541. And some of you got an hour, 2-hour ride home. Hey, use that time, make a few phone calls, and tell your friends. All right? Without the filibuster, it's going to be nearly impossible for liberty-minded senators like Ted Cruz of Texas and there you go, Rand Paul out of Kentucky, right? And Mike Lee as well. So, you know, we need to support them, right? They need the filibuster. Right now, the deal. Think about it. The deal's being made by the same people that caved on the spending ceiling. The same people that gave us the Patriot Act, the same people that voted for unlimited detention of Americans without trial, the same people that caved on the fiscal cliff. Those people are cutting a deal right now, and believe me, they're gonna gut the filibuster. Right? They're gonna gut the filibuster. So this deal cannot go through. So they need to hear from us. So call 202-224-2541. 2-5 for 1, and tell Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell not to cut any deals with anybody. Okay, so you do that, your first convenience for that. Now, remember what John Bonner did. He just passed through the Congress $60 billion bill, $60 billion bill for Hurricane Sandy. Sounds good, right? Who doesn't want to help victims of hurricanes? But this is a problem. $10 billion of that is going to the TSA, right? The people that fondle your kids and your grandmothers at airports. Right? Right? They haven't caught a single terrorist in 10, 11 years that they've been around. Right? Now they're moving into train stations, and they're moving into interstates because there's federal, federal money going there. If you travel through a federal highway, you're consenting to being stopped and searched, like in Germany a few years back. I don't think so. Okay, $150,000 going to fisheries in Alaska and Mississippi. I'm not from the States originally, but I think Alaska's way yonder on the other side of the country. Mississippi's right here. So what's that had to do with hurricane relief in New Jersey and New York? Okay. Big labor kickbacks to union bosses. $33 billion out of the 60 has nothing to do with Hurricane Sandy. Not a thing. Okay. This is the Republican leadership. Republican leadership. And by the way, if you're in the 6th district, you can thank Spencer Backus. Okay. If you're in the 1st district, you can thank Joe Bonner. All right. If you're in the 5th district, Robert Kramer. Give him a call. Let him know how you feel about that. Okay. So we cannot let the GOP establishment throw away a tool that we need, such as the filibuster. We just cannot do it. It's that important. So, this vote, this deal cut, is going to be taking place on Tuesday. So, on Tuesday, I hope that's not my phone. Just my wife trying to tell me to shut up and not get in trouble with the FBI. So that's, the first rally, she comes with me, and she's sitting down there in the steps. Say hello, Cassandra. First rally she comes to, and then she comes to this one. So we'll treat her well. All right. So she allows me to do all this stuff. So now we're going back to my speech. Okay. People ask me, "Well, why do you need an AR-15?" I say, "Well, I don't need an AR-15 any more than Rosa Parks needed to sit in the front of the bus." But we have a Bill of Rights. We don't have a Bill of Needs. Okay? Think about that. We have a Bill of Rights. We have rights, and we have to exercise them. If we don't, we're going to lose it. Okay? So, and the funny thing is gun laws really discriminate against minorities. They do. You think of Washington, D.C., Chicago, all the minorities, inner city minorities, they're there with guns. They can't have guns. They can't defend themselves. There's a great video on YouTube called "No Guns for Negroes." You go watch it. Okay? Sure, rich white folk live on the suburbs, they're safe, they can have their guns so on, but if you live in the inner city with high crime area, you can't have a gun. I would say you have high crime because you can't have a gun. Right? So it's really, the other thing, 9/11 might have not happened if those pilots had guns with them. Right? If it wasn't for regulation keeping our pilots from protecting their cabin. Hey, listen, they're well-intentioned people. They just, okay? So, there's a reason for the Second Amendment. And all you liberals out there, it's not for shooting rabbits. Okay? It's not for shooting rabbits. Okay? But I got to confess, though, I kind of favor gun control a little bit, I would really have more gun control over federal agents. That's it. I can get behind that, and if you don't think that's a popular stance, ask Randy Weaver. If you don't know who Randy Weaver is, right. Okay, ask Randy how he feels. Federal agents. His wife got shot through the head while holding her baby. His 16-year-old son got shot and killed on his property. He didn't get committed to a single crime.
Ruby Ridge.
Waco. Okay, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, they only gave me 20 minutes, guys. So exactly. So, you know, be careful. If you read about Brandon Robb, he's a veteran of Afghanistan, veteran of Iraq. On Facebook, he got posted some stuff critical of the government. Free speech. FBI came, took him out, psychiatric hospital, and there wasn't no warrant, no reason, no arrest. He finally got out, and now he's suing the federal government. Right here, a veteran got taken in for protesting the government, for having a negative opinion of the government. All right? We have Operation Norwood. Has anybody heard of Operation Norwood? Okay? If you haven't, the Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed carrying out domestic terrorism, putting bombs in Miami, hijacking planes and crashing them so we could go to war with Cuba. Okay, so yeah, I was silent when I read this for the first time. Don't take my word for any of this. This is what happened. Right? Michael Townley. Michael Townley is a CIA agent, right? He was hired to kill Chilean political dissidents. So he carried out some murders. And he carried one out in Washington, D.C. And he ended up killing a lady by the name of Ronnie Moffett, who was a secretary, and then you and her husband with a car bomb. It's a CIA agent. So, you know, when liberals say, oh, let's trust the government, you know, they'll never do anything like that. I mean, I said, hey, what happened to Japanese Americans in World War II? Okay? Well, what would you tell who's a Native American here? I don't see very many. You know why? Native Americans, lay down your guns, we'll put you on a reservation, take care of you. Okay? If you lay down yours, this place is going to be empty. All right? Anybody have a bottle of water? Kind of dry here. So, you know, now we're going to say you need to understand the people we're dealing with. Right? So how do you know if you're dealing with an anti-gun nut? Okay? Well, you ask them. If they believe that no guns equals no violence, they might be an anti-gun nut. Right? If they believe that no guns equals no crime, they might be an anti-gun nut. If they believe that no guns equals no murder, it might be an anti-gun nut. If they believe the police will protect us, it might be right? Yeah, well, right now the police are protecting the street. So, we got, if they believe that guns make good people do bad things, right? It's a gun, right? The person has nothing to do with that. They believe that we should take all guns away from everyone, right? They believe anti-gun is pro-America. So that's the mentality that we're dealing with, okay? Just so you know. So speaking of nuts, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about the Journal News in New York. You heard about that? They publish all the gun owners and registered gun owners, so that's another reason not to have gun registration, right? You know, we got a lot of liberals say, hey, right to privacy in the Constitution. Well, can't think of anything more private than whether people know whether to have a gun or not, right? So they felt so proud of outing gun owners that some folks went out and contacted these people at the Journal News and say, hey, we have some signs. We believe no guns equals no violence and no guns equals no crime. So we have a sign for you. Will you put this out in your yard, please? That's the sign. That's the sign. Gun-free home. Not a single taker. Not one person wanted, because they didn't want folks to know that they didn't have a gun. But they're benefiting from those of us that do, because they feel safe.
That's the British speaking of
so,
lies.
well, end result was that the Journal News in New York this morning took that database away. I think they felt the pressure. So that's no longer an issue for now. But don't you forget, okay, don't you forget, okay, the media right here, you know, they're going to have a little snippet about something, and that's it. And they're going to exaggerate it. They're not going to talk about all the good things for the nice people that we have here. They'll pick somebody. We got one protester over here. It's a lady that's wonderful that she's here. Support her First Amendment. There's one person, but she's probably going to get half the attention from the media. Right? So that's how the media works. But the media was surprised this week on Friday. Because, what is it? NBC News and the Wall Street Journal had a poll out, and they say, what's the cause of all this killing and assassination and murder and what's going on? So they polled Americans, and 83% said parents not paying attention to their children's lives. Wow. 82% blame lack of effective treatment for mental illness. Wow. Does Obama know this? 67% blame the amount of media coverage of the mass shootings. 62% blame movies, television programs, and video games. The top 4 reasons had nothing to do with guns. Absolutely nothing. Okay? The good news, though, is that in 1990, 78% of Americans, wanted stricter laws. 2000, it was 60%, and right now we're hovering around 50%. So we're going in the right direction. Okay, we're really going in the right direction. But it always puzzles me. I try to get this straight. The ban on alcohol didn't work. The ban on marijuana didn't work. Right? The ban on illegal immigration didn't work, but a ban on guns will work? I don't think so. I don't get it. There's a prosecutor from D.C., right? And he came out against any national gun ban because he says it was an undue burden on police, it endangers civil liberties, right? And in D.C., what they had was you could be detained for up to 100 days without bond if you own a gun, if you had a gun in your possession, right? Not that you committed a crime, if you just had a gun in your possession, right? They were instituting curfews, and they were seizing automobiles if they found a gun in there. No crime at all. And the other reason he's against that is because it increased crime. So for example, the DC gun ban went up in 1976. By 1988, homicides had doubled. Anybody in the media quoted me? Anybody quoted me? Okay, please quote me. Okay, you're authorized for this. By 1993, it had almost tripled to 454 people killed that year, 1993. Well, the gun ban got struck down a couple of years ago. In 2012, they had 88 murders. What's the change? 88. Now, it's a shame for those 88 folks. All right? It's a shame for those folks. So, yes, it's not 454. All right? So that tells you some folks were protecting themselves and did not become victims. All right? We have other examples that I pulled out of the internet last night. Switzerland, 100% gun ownership. Right? Everybody has to have a gun. Right? 0.7 persons murdered per 100,000. Mexico. Okay, I saw some Mexicans over there. Hey, fellow Mexican. I'm not Mexican, by the way. I'm Chilean. Hey, Mexican guy. All right? So we got a Mexican guy. In Mexico, you can't own a gun legally. The government can't. Right? But they had a murder rate of 22.7 people per 100,000. So if they can't own guns, how are they getting killed?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So we want to. They probably want to get our guns so they can send them off to Mexico. That's why they wanted to do it. And then I just don't get that. All right. They had 40,000 people killed in Mexico last year, with no guns allowed. Okay. So. You can understand, you got a big event, you got a mass murder coming up, and people, they want to have safer guns for safer bullets. I don't know if you remember Jocelyn Elders from the 90s.
My foot is asleep.
She wanted safer guns for safer. And we have well-intentioned people like this lady over here. Her heart's in the right mind. She's thinking of the children. We're thinking of the children too, but we're thinking of the children and us and our future children in our country. All right? So you can't, it's understandable you can't rush through things. The state legislature of New York passed basically real restrictive laws where you can't have routine clips, you got to register your gun, but ran it through the legislature so fast that they didn't accept police. So the policemen are now criminals in New York City. So you stay away. Right? So you just can't rush through things. The stuff that we can do, regulate federal agents more, help decrease gun violence, right? You know, but the thing is, when you think about it, where do mass murders and crime sprees happen? They happen in gun-free zones. When was the last mass shooting you had at a gun show? Probably 10 guns per person. Nothing's bad. You go, see, this is a liberal mentality. They think that we can put our kids in a school and the government will keep them safe. Well, that didn't work, right? But I tell you, I know one school where I never, ever heard of mass shooting. That's a homeschool.
Yeah.
Never heard of it. So homeschool, good. Okay. So, you know, going back, we have one of the things is people need to understand that we are the ones that are entrusted with our own safety. We cannot depend on the government. We can't let people not understand that. And the other thing that I want to leave you with is that people, you have to understand that the Constitution doesn't protect our right to have guns, is to bear arms. And there's a big difference between having a gun and having arms. Okay? We have a Second Amendment not to shoot rabbits. Now we have a Second Amendment to stay free. Okay? So I'll leave you with a couple more quotes here. And then when I'm done, everybody stand up and cheer and clap and make my wife feel good that, you know, it was time well spent, okay? So we have a couple of quotes, and let's see if you know who said this, okay? Just because you have a right, it doesn't mean that the state cannot constrain that right. Who said that? Yeah, no, close. Barack Hussein Obama said that. Just because you have a right, the government can't constrain. Okay, well, so I said, well, how can I counter that quote? Well, it's another quote, right? One of my favorite people here says, a right delayed is a right denied. Who said that? Who said it? Martin Luther King. Okay? A right delayed is a right denied. So please, members of the media, please quote me saying that. Okay? And if you can write it in a Spanish accent, all the better. Okay? So, you know, the first thing I learned when I got to Alabama was people were saying, thank God for Mississippi. You know? If everything goes wrong, but at least there's Mississippi. But you know what? Mississippi just passed a law, a nullification law, that makes felons of people trying to enforce federal gun ban. Right? So the Campaign for Liberty is going to be working. We're going to be putting pressure on the candidates to do the same thing here in Alabama. So we'll need your support for that. And we got a legislative session coming up. We have the GOP is the party in power here. We have their annual meetings coming up. I invite you to Birmingham in a couple of weeks. Go out there with these same signs and pass on to the leadership how we feel about our rights and make sure we put their feet to the fire, make sure they stay there. And so we're going to call on Governor Bentley, you know, to pass legislation. I got a little story about Governor Bentley. You know, he invited me to lunch with about 8 or 10 of our fellow conservatives here, right? Telling what a wonderful thing healthcare exchanges were and how we should plan for them and spend money on it. Well, he came across a little resistance here, right? And now he put a nice little announcement in the media, and then he's against Obamacare. Well, that didn't happen by accident. Through the Campaign for Liberty, the Tea Party, other conservatives around the state, the Tea Party here local, and I'd like to thank the local Tea Party guys, because you guys are here, and you're the ones that come here. It's hard for people from Huntsville, Mobile to come here. So you guys are called over and over and over and over again, and thank you for that. So it didn't just happen. We're going to be trying to introduce legislation to nullify any federal gun ban here in the state of Alabama, right? Because we have to, you know, and I'll leave you with this last quote. And this was said by, and remember to clap and cheer and all that good stuff, okay? And anybody taking pictures, I got to send my mom a picture. She's still in Chile, you know. I tell her I do these things, she doesn't believe me, but so if anybody takes a picture, that's fine. But the quote by King Leonidas, when the Persian army, you ever seen the movie 300 for this teenager? Okay? When the Persians came and then they demanded from the Spartans that they surrender their weapons, right? He said, "Molon lave." And I lived in Greece, so I know how it's pronounced, right? Molon lave, and that means, basically, loosely translated means, if you want our guns, come and take them. Obama, if you want our guns, come and take them.